Unfortunately for her, the gods accepted her as a sacrifice, and Azuka was to embark on the preparations for the sacrifice. Adaugo was locked in a room in his obi and untied. Azuka felt sorry for her and did not want her to suffer before she dies. As Adaugo languished in captivity, her angelic voice rang through the walls of Azuka's compound, a haunting reminder of the innocence that stood on the precipice of sacrifice. It was here that Azuka's second son, Obinna, stumbled upon her prison. Once upon a time, in the heart of an ancient African kingdom of Ofianta, unfolds the tale of a father's desperation, a son's rebellion, and the triumph of the human spirit. There resided a man of immense wealth and power, known far and wide as Azuka, the revered native doctor. His very name struck fear into the hearts of those who dared to cross him, for his mastery of magic was unmatched, and people journeyed from different distant lands seeking the solutions to their most daunting problems. Azuka's home was a testament to his prosperity and influence, where 3 wives and 9 children dwelled in harmony under his benevolent rule. Among his children, there was one who held a special place in his heart, Ugogbe, his only cherished daughter, affectionately nicknamed Tata Azuka. She was the apple of his eyes, her laughter a melody that filled his soul with joy. Azuka never returned from a journey without buying anything special for her. She loved bushmeat so much, and Azuka, who loved seeing her smile, ensured he got it whenever he was able to do so. Ugogbe's mother was not happy with the way Azuka pampered Ugogbe. She felt Azuka was going to spoil her, but Azuka didn't care. After all, she was his only daughter. He ensured Ugogbe Oyibo, as he fondly called her, never lacked anything. Amongst all her siblings, her needs were always the first to be met. Azuka was blessed with wealth and power. Yet, as time passed, his heart grew greedy, and his thirst for power consumed him. In his quest to be the most powerful native doctor, he began to bring in more idols, believing they would amplify his abilities and solidify his dominance. Unknown to Azuka, one of these idols was not of the friendly kind. It harbored a dark and insatiable hunger, feeding on the souls of those who dared to wield its power. With each offering made to it, Azuka's strength swelled, but so too did the darkness within him. Soon, Azuka's reputation spread far and wide. His name whispered in awe and fear. The corrupting influence of the idol twisted his once noble intentions, and he became intoxicated with his own power, blind to the darkness that consumed him. But the price of his ascent to greatness was far greater than he could have imagined. The idol, hungry for more than just offerings of incense and sacrifice. One fateful morning, Ugogbe fell gravely ill, sending shock waves of despair through the household. Her mother, who was scared, ran out to call her father. At the sound of Ego, Ugogbe's mother's voice, Azuka ran out and followed her to the hut. Despite Azuka's formidable powers, he found himself powerless in the face of his daughter's affliction. Desperate to save her, he turned to the ancient spirits for guidance, only to be met with a harrowing demand, a sacrifice of unimaginable proportions. Tears rolled down his eyes as he loved his daughter so much. Azuka had never cried before, She couldn't eat, talk, play, or laugh. He didn't want to lose his daughter. Days passed and her condition was getting worse. This time, he was determined to get to the root of her problem and find a solution. He could not afford to lose his beloved daughter. Azuka's anguish knew no bounds as he pleaded with the gods to spare his beloved daughter, offering riches and treasures beyond measure in exchange for her life. But the gods remained unmoved, decreeing they needed human blood sacrifice in order to continue supplying him power. And in exchange for his power, they wanted Ugogbe, his beloved daughter. Azuka cried as he pleaded with the oracle to change its demand. He was willing to give the oracle anything to save his daughter. I have yams, cattle, cars, slaves. I could even build you houses. But please leave my daughter. She is my happiness, the only girl you've blessed me with. He offered more sacrifices and prayed to all the gods he knew. He traveled to different kingdoms, seeking witch doctors that were more powerful than himself. Finally, the oracle gave him 60 days to get a virgin girl outside their kingdom, who was about 16 years, decreeing that only the blood of a virgin maiden could appease their insatiable hunger for power. The sacrifice was to be done on the 60th day. Azuka felt relieved, although he wasn't comfortable with the demand, but he had no choice. He needed to save his daughter. With a heavy heart, Azuka embarked on a quest fraught with peril, scouring distant realms in search of a maiden who fit the gods' exacting criteria. Days turned to weeks, and as a deadline loomed ominously ahead, hope dwindled with each passing moment. For 20 days they were searching for virgin girls in faraway kingdoms, but the oracle kept on rejecting them. On the 35th day of his desperate journey, fate intervened in the form of Adaugo, a fatherless child of unmatched beauty and purity, whose voice carried the essence of the divine. Kidnapped on her way to the stream, she found herself thrust into a world of darkness and despair, her fate bound to that of Ugogbe's. She cried and pleaded with them to let her go, as she was the only child of her widowed mother, but all pleas fell on deaf ears. They bundled her to Azuka's compound. Azuka felt pity for her. She had cried all through the journey, telling them her mother would die if she didn't see her. She was her mother's only hope. Unfortunately, the gods accepted her, and Azuka was to embark on the preparations for the sacrifice. Meanwhile, his daughter's health was getting worse. Adaugo was locked in a room in his obi and kept untied. Azuka, who felt sorry for her, did not want her to suffer. As Adaugo languished in captivity, her angelic voice rang through the walls of Azuka's compound, a haunting reminder of the innocents that stood on the precipice of sacrifice. Back at home, people gathered to listen to her sing. She was so beautiful that they called her the singing goddess. She would sing all day in her locked room and refuse to eat any meal that was given to her. It was here that Azuka's second son, Obinna, stumbled upon her prison. One evening, Obinna was returning from the farm and heard a melodious voice erupting from one of the obi rooms. He stood fixed on a spot and couldn't move away from the window. He sat down on the floor and listened to this melody erupting from the room. He was unaware his father kidnapped a girl for sacrifice to save his own daughter. His mother was Azuka's favorite wife, and he usually told her everything. That night, Obinna asked his mother about the singing maiden. She hushed him immediately and told him never to allow his father to hear him. That maiden is to be used for sacrifice to save your sister from dying. His heart dropped. He always thought his father was a good man. Why kill another to save your own? He felt pity for the young maiden. So many questions were juggled through his mind. Where was her family? Does she not have one? Where's her mother? She must be so worried looking for her daughter. His mother stared at him with tears in her eyes. Your father loves Ugogbe so much, and this is the only way out, Obinna. I also feel so sorry for the poor girl. She's so beautiful. Now, you have to keep this a secret. Your father would kill me if he found out you know about this. With his heart heavy with the weight of his father's sin, Obinna was torn between loyalty to his father and empathy for the innocent girl locked away in his room. As days passed, he couldn't shake off the image of Adaugo's tear-streaked face and her hauntingly beautiful voice. He always found himself sneaking moments near her window, listening to her songs that seemed to carry both sorrow and resilience in their melodies. Meanwhile, Azuka was consumed by the weight of his decision. Though he was desperate to save Ugogbe, he couldn't ignore the guilt gnawing at his conscience. Each passing day brought him closer to the dreaded deadline, and despite his effort to hide his turmoil, his family sensed his inner fear. As days stretched into weeks, Obinna found himself increasingly drawn to Adaugo's plight. He couldn't fathom the idea of sacrificing an innocent life to save another, even if it meant his sister's survival. With each passing day, his resolve to defy his father's plan grew stronger. One evening, unable to contain his inner conflict any longer, Obinna sought out Adaugo's room. He found her sitting in the dim light, her eyes red from tears. Yet, her voice still carried the same ethereal beauty. Tentatively, he approached her, his heart heavy with the weight of the truth he was about to reveal. "Nne," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "I cannot bear to see you suffer like this. My father, he planned to sacrifice you to save my sister." Adaugo's eyes widened in fear and disbelief, yet she remained remarkably composed. "I suspected as much," she replied, her voice tinged with resignation. "But what can we do? Your father holds all the power in this kingdom." Obinna hesitated, grappling with his newfound sense of responsibility. "We must find a way to escape," he declared, his voice tinged with determination. "I cannot stand by and watch as an innocent life is taken." With Adaugo's help, Obinna devised a daring plan to flee the kingdom under the cover of darkness. Using his knowledge of the mansion grounds and Adaugo's resourcefulness, they managed to evade the guards and disappear into the night. As they journeyed through the unfamiliar terrain in darkness, they faced countless obstacles and dangers along the way. Adaugo was blindfolded as she was being brought into Ofianta Kingdom, so she didn't know the way back to her place. Obinna's priority was to ensure Adaugo was led out of the dangerous reach of his selfish father. For hours, they walked through a thick forest. Obinna was as brave as his father. Earlier on, he had stolen his father's gun to get any dangerous animal they may come across out of their way. None of Azuka's sons ever dared him. Azuka was highly feared by his sons, but Obinna was bent on defying his father if all it meant was doing the right thing. Deep inside, he was also doing this for some other reasons. Obinna was falling in love with this young maiden. Finally, they were approaching Ngene. It was a very big river. No mortal man dared cross it without fighting with the guardian of the river, Icheke. It was a river that swallowed people without mercy, and everyone dreaded it. Obinna had never crossed this river before, but he heard stories about this powerful river, and only one man, Uturu, had been able to challenge the prince of the river. He thought of another option but couldn't find any, as they were running out of time. He held onto Adaugo, strongly determined to cross this river. As they neared Ngene, the mighty river stood like a barrier before them, its turbulent waves whispering ancient warnings. Obinna, undeterred by the daunting challenge, stepped forward, his resolve unyielding as he invoked the powers of Icheke, determined to cross this formidable obstacle. Beside him, Adaugo trembled with fear, her mind haunted by the tales her grandmother had told her about these treacherous waters of Ngene. This river was unfamiliar to her, a mystery shrouded in dread, for she had never crossed it before. Icheke, the guardian of the waters, heard Obinna's summons with astonishment. Who dared to challenge him so boldly? None had ever dared before, and his curiosity was piqued. With a roar, he stirred the waters into a tempest, the waves crashing against the river banks, threatening to overwhelm them both. Adaugo clung to Obinna, her heart pounding with terror, while even he felt a flicker of doubt in the face of such raw power. But their lives hung in the balance, and Obinna steeled himself against the fear, refusing to falter. As the tide surged, Obinna held his ground, his unwavering courage a beacon amidst the chaos. This was his checkered streak, to instill fear with the ferocity of his domain, to exploit weakness born of doubt. But Obinna remained resolute, his determination unshakable, despite Adaugo's panicked cries. When the waters receded, Icheke emerged, a formidable presence cloaked in menace, his very essence strumming with power. With a defiant shove, Obinna positioned Adaugo behind him, preparing to confront the water spirit head-on. Icheke, enraged by Obinna's audacity, could scarcely believe the bravery of this mortal who dared to challenge him. As they fought, Obinna was determined to overpower him, and it was a fierce battle between a mortal and a spirit. Icheke silently observed Obinna. He recognized something, a spark of resilience, a glimmer of unwavering resolve that mirrored his own. And so, with the clash of wheels and the clash of elements, Obinna faced the water spirit with courage in his heart, his determination matched only by the fierce love he held for Adaugo. In the end, it was not just the strength of his arms or the power of his words that secured victory, but the indomitable spirit of a man who dared to defy the forces of nature for the sake of the one he loved. Icheke vanished, and the waters of Ngene stilled. The sun cast its golden rays upon them, and Obinna emerged victorious, his bond with Adaugo strengthened by the trials they had faced together. As they continued their journey, passing through the water hand in hand, they knew that no obstacle, no matter how formidable, could ever hope to stand in the way. As they journeyed through the forest, a sharp stick accidentally pierced through Adaugo's feet, and she screamed out in pain. Obinna held her hand and helped her stand on her feet. He observed the injury and saw that the tear was deep and blood was gushing out of the injury. He thought of what to do and quickly searched for a herbal leaf to at least stop the bleeding while they continued their journey. Luckily, he found one, and as he had seen his father do many times, he spoke to the leaf and applied it to the tear. He was able to stop the bleeding and had to carry her on his back as they continued their journey. This really slowed down their journey. Back in the kingdom, Azuka's desperation reached new heights as a deadline for the sacrifice drew near. With each passing day, Ugobe's condition continued to deteriorate, and Azuka's heartache grew more unbearable. But just as all hope seemed lost, news of Adaugo and Obinna's escape reached him, sending shockwaves through his household. Azuka's fury knew no bound as he realized the gravity of his son's betrayal. Yet, beneath his anger lurked a profound sense of remorse for the path he had chosen. As Azuka grappled with the consequences of his actions, a newfound determination ignited within him. With the help of his remaining sons, he set out on a desperate quest to find Adaugo and bring her back before it was too late. Across vast deserts and treacherous jungles, Azuka sent his sons with horses to pursue Obinna and Adaugo, while he sat in his shrine, warding off any obstacle that may stand in their way. From his consultations using his magical powers, they were heading to Ogene. The sun was getting hotter, if not for the shade provided by the trees. Obinna planned to get to Ogene, a faraway kingdom. From there, they would ask around for the way to Adaugo's village. From her description, Obinna could bet they would easily find their way once they got to Ogene. But the circumstances surrounding their journey weren't making it easy. They were both tired and Obinna suggested resting for a while. They stopped close to a river. Obinna had his bath and encouraged Adaugo to do the same, so she could feel better. Adaugo was shy, but Obinna promised not to stay. He would go around and look for forest fruit so they could eat and continue their journey. Adaugo was scared, but Obinna promised not to go far. As she had her bath, he left to hunt for fruit, and luckily for them, he stumbled on pawpaw and mango tree with ripe fruits on them. He picked as much as he could and rushed back to find Adaugo waiting patiently at the river bank. She was becoming scared and was so happy to see him return. She devoured the fruits hungrily. She felt so at ease with Obinna. For days, she hadn't eaten anything. Obinna, on his part, couldn't hide his amusement as he watched her. As the rays of the sun poured on her face, she looked like a goddess. He couldn't believe his father would look at this angel of beauty and want to use her for sacrifice. He was caught off guard by the tiny voice. "Why don't you eat, Obinna?" He smiled. He loved the sound of his name on her lips. "I'm fine. I will eat after you are satisfied. We have enough. And I could also go get more." She looked at him. "You are a good man. You are nothing like your father. I can't believe you chose me over your sister. I owe you my life. Thank you so much." Obinna was silent. He appreciated her gratitude, but his father wasn't a bad man. Of course, he was still his father. "My father is not a bad man. He's just drunken with power. He got powers from a blood-drunken idol, and they're after my sister's life. But I don't believe a life should be exchanged for another's. I also love my sister and wouldn't want her dead." Adaugo marveled at Obinna's wisdom. He wasn't just a good man, but also a wise and very brave man who could challenge spirits. What could be more attractive than these awesome qualities? What? Was she fallen for this young man? She concealed all thoughts and immediately focused on her fruits. Obinna and Adaugo forged a deep bond, born out of shared adversity. Despite their differences in status and upbringing, they found solace in each other's company, drawing strength from their mutual determination to defy fate. Because of Adaugo's injury, Obinna couldn't move as fast as he should. He was carrying her. Soon, his brothers caught up with them in the heart of the forest. Obinna was scared but determined to fight for Adaugo. They would have to kill him before they took her from him. He fought fiercely with his brothers as they demanded he let Adaugo go. They dreaded Azuka's fury, and Obinna was not yielding. He fought with his brothers with all his strength. Soon, his brothers were gaining power over him. It was 1 against 4, but he did fight bravely. He lay weak on the floor. It felt as if his world was coming to an end. He could hear Adaugo pleading with his brothers not to take her. He mustered the last energy in him and stood on his feet, kneeling and pleading with his brothers not to take Adaugo. He opened up to them that he was in love with her and that was the greatest favor they could do him, to repay him for all the times he had stood by them. They all knew Obinna was selfless and loved them so much. He had stood by them at one time or the other and could give his life for any of them. They looked at him with pity. No doubt, the innocent girl didn't commit any offense. They decided to let them go. They would all follow Obinna to ensure he took Adaugo back home safely and then come up with a story for their father. As they set to leave, their father's messengers caught up with them, and they slew them and continued their escape. From Ogene, just as Obinna predicted, they were able to get Adaugo home safely. Her mother had cried herself into sickness. She thought she had lost her only daughter. She couldn't hide her emotions as she stood up and embraced her. She recovered from her sickness immediately. Adaugo told her the whole story and how Obinna and his brothers saved her. Her mother held Obinna's hand and poured out blessings on him for wiping a widow's tears. After resting for a while, the brothers stood up and set to journey back to their village. They needed to go sort out things at home as their father was losing it. Adaugo couldn't hold back her tears. She had bonded with Obinna and was going to miss him a great deal. She had found a man after her heart. Obinna was going to miss her too. He promised to come back for her as soon as things were settled. Ultimately, as the fateful day of the sacrifice drew near, his daughter Ugogbe died before her brothers returned and Azuka was thrown into mourning. As he stood before the idol, his heart torn between love for his daughter and his insatiable thirst for power. He realized the depth of his folly. In a moment of clarity, he saw the true cost of his actions, the life lost and the darkness that now gripped his soul. Azuka regretted his actions. It was not Obinna that cost him his daughter, but his uncontrollable desire for powers. Every unruly action had its own consequences, and he had to face it. He forgave Obinna and praised his bravery and courage to stop him. Who knew how many more virgins the oracle would have continued demanding? In the end, it was not through the spilling of blood that salvation was found, but through transformative power of forgiveness, love, and the unbreakable bond between a father and his children. As the sun set on the kingdom of Ofianta, a new dawn emerged, heralding a future where compassion triumphed over cruelty, and the echoes of a once-forgotten melody rang across the land. Fate had brought Obinna and Adaugo together, and when things were settled, Obinna went back to Utumo as he had promised and married the beautiful maiden Adaugo. His father blessed them, and their union was a happy one.